This isn't a journey for you, driven by a desire to normalize. This is a journey undertaken by you. What if the light isn't winning? What if the darkness is truly vast and indifferent? Consider this. There is more ground than visible peak, more unlit sky than distant star, and in the cosmic tapestry, darkness far outweighs the light. For centuries, humanity has stared at the stars, charting the pinpricks of light, attempting to make sense of the overwhelming black. But what if our focus on these radiant points, this desperate search for illumination, has blinded us to the profound reality of the cosmic abyss that contains them? What if what you see, what you're told to focus on, what you're instructed to fix, is only a tiny fraction of what truly defines you? What if the vast unseen ground beneath your feet, the deep, complex, and often overlooked context of your very being, holds the true key to understanding yourself, your experiences, and your place in the world? This isn't just a philosophical musing, it's a lived reality for many. This is the quest of the atypical man, often pejoratively called neurodivergent. A label, you might notice, derived from a presumed norm. But this isn't a journey for him driven by external expectations or a desire to normalize. No, this is a journey undertaken by him from within. It's a profound quest into a fundamental truth. The map is not the territory. Our language, our very means of understanding, often forces the sprawling, messy, magnificent territory of reality into neat, rigid boxes. It creates distinctions, an either-or world, normal or abnormal, healthy or sick, functional or dysfunctional. And for those whose internal territory doesn't neatly fit these pre-drawn maps, this act of definition creates a profound sense of exclusion, a persistent feeling of being fundamentally misplaced. When your inner world, your actual territory, with all its unique neurobiological wiring, its distinct patterns of thought and feeling, its often misunderstood strengths, doesn't fit these accepted linguistic and conceptual maps, you are relegated to the excluded. You find yourself adrift in the conceptual void. And in that silent void, that space of otherness, shame and guilt take root. They are not merely external judgments. They are insidious introjects, internalized whispers that tell you something is fundamentally flawed within. Here, we encounter the ancient parable of the two arrows, which for the atypical man often extends to three. The first arrow is the inevitable pain of being human, the disappointments, the heartbreaks, the simple fact of existence. This pain is universal, but swiftly following this first arrow is the second arrow, your own internal response, transforming pain into suffering. It's the rumination, the self-blame, the agonizing over what should have been. For the atypical man, this often merges with a third arrow, an extrinsic one, a societal projectile. This arrow comes from a world that labels him other, that pathologizes his natural way of being, profoundly shaping both the initial wound of existence and his internal narrative of self-worth. He's not just suffering, he's suffering because he's told his suffering is wrong, or because his way of being causes the suffering. The very act of naming can become a silent sentence, an invisible prison. Posit a word like normal, and you instantly conjure its opposite, abnormal. These categories, these labels, become powerful tools of exclusion. They aren't just descriptions, they are prescriptions. They dictate what is acceptable, what is desired, what is good. They perpetuate a deep, internalized shame by creating an aspirational figure, a normal self, that for many is unattainable without violating their very essence. They build a figure, an idealized construct, without ever truly seeing or acknowledging its ground. The tragedy is that this pursuit of a normal figure, so often out of alignment with one's own ground, is precisely what fuels the sense of internal fragmentation and persistent inadequacy. This is why we speak of not psychology. It's not anti-psychology. It's a-psychology in the truest sense. It moves beyond the limitations of current frameworks. What if what we've accepted as the map, this monolithic entity we call psychology, is merely a limited and often misguided crystallization of the territory into a less than satisfactory whole? For many, psychology has been invaluable, providing frameworks and tools for healing and understanding. But for others, particularly the atypical, it has actively denied them vision of their own truth. It has sought to sculpt them into a predefined figure, rather than nurturing the unique figure that naturally emerges from their own distinct ground. It's not real or essential in any absolute sense, but rather a constructed lens that, for the atypical man, has too often distorted or obscured his inherent value. It has focused on deficits through a narrow clinical aperture, missing the panoramic vista of his entire being. This brings us to the crucial difference between figure and ground, not figure or ground. Conventional approaches often try to sculpt the atypical man into a prescribed figure, dictated by a normal ground he doesn't inhabit. Imagine a sculptor trying to carve a swan from a block of granite, when the granite's natural grain and composition are perfectly suited for a powerful, rugged mountain. The effort is immense, the result often forced, and the intrinsic beauty of the original material is lost. But what if your true ground forms a different, unique figure entirely? What if the mountain is magnificent in its own right, and trying to force it into the shape of a swan only creates internal fracture and exhaustion? Our approach recognizes that the figure cannot be understood apart from its ground, and that forcing a mismatch inevitably leads to suffering. And here's a radical thought, one that liberates. Truth is never an absolute. Like a blanket pulled too tightly over a complex landscape, it can hide more than it reveals. In our desperate quest for certainty, for a single, comforting truth, we often obscure the rich, intricate details beneath. Illusion, paradoxically, is a necessary aspect of all reality. To posit anything, to draw any single figure, to say this is the truth or this is normal, often denies to a significant sense its vast, intricate ground. What if the very normal we chase, the idealized figure we're pressured to embody, is merely a statistical illusion? A constructed figure that blinds us to our own rich, complex ground, thus fueling your chronic sense of lack and the belief that you are perpetually not enough. This constant striving to fit an ill-fitting blanket drains energy, creates internal conflict, and prevents authentic emergence. This is the heart of existential neurobiology. It's not a new set of answers, not another rigid map to impose. Instead, it offers a new lens, a framework that recognizes the primacy of the ground. It begins by accepting your ground, your unique neurobiology, your lived experiences, your individual way of perceiving and processing the world as fundamental and valid. It's a way to finally realize the actual from the possible, to understand that your true figure, vibrant and authentic, can only emerge organically from its own complex inherent ground. This is a profound shift from a deficit-based model to one of inherent worth and potential. We move beyond the crippling either-or to embrace the both-and. Divergence and convergence. It's about finding secure attachment not by conforming, not by erasing your unique ground to fit a common figure, but by understanding that security is a dynamic movement away from anxiety, away from the constant pressure of a misaligned world. It's about seeing your divergence not as a flaw to be corrected, but as an integral part of your unique ground, a source of strength, a different way of experiencing and contributing to the world. Your difference is not a problem. It's a defining feature of your authentic self. EN shifts our attention in a fundamental way, no longer a narrow, critical spotlight on perceived flaws, those constructed figures that have caused so much internal shame. Instead, it's a wide, gentle floodlight, illuminating the entire magnificent landscape of your being, your unique processing, your often misunderstood strengths, your specific patterns of engagement, and your true, expansive potential. It offers a panoramic view, allowing you to appreciate the intricate beauty of your entire ground, rather than just fixating on perceived imperfections in a singular figure. The quest begins with a radical act, the dissolution of those old, inadequate maps and the constructed figures that have caused so much internal suffering. This dissolution isn't an ending. It's the essential, liberating first step. It's the courageous act of shedding external definitions, allowing the old, brittle structures to crumble. It's a realization that the true solution was always speculative, never a fixed answer, but a continuous journey of becoming, of unfolding, of authentic emergence. It frees you from the exhausting pursuit of an unattainable normal and opens up a world of genuine self-discovery. This video is just the beginning. It's an invitation to step onto a fertile ground where promise and hope emerge, to embark on your quest, the quest of the atypical man, to redraw your map, to reclaim your territory, and to finally allow your authentic figure to emerge, truly defined by its own incredible ground. To see for a better way of being. Welcome to Existential Neurobiology.